The Great Hall of Records on Centauri Prime was the largest building in the known galaxy. It held the classification data for every species that had ever made contact with the Galactic Federation. Today, the hall was packed with representatives from over 3,000 worlds. They had all come for one reason. A new species was about to receive its official classification. High Arbiter Vexthal stood at the central podium. His 4 arms held different data tablets. His blue skin seemed darker than usual under the harsh lights. He had been doing this job for 200 cycles. He had classified species as prey, as predators, as scavengers, as parasites. He had seen every possible combination of survival traits, or so he thought until the humans arrived. We will now begin the official classification hearing for the species known as Homo sapiens, commonly called humans, from the planet Earth in the Sol system, Vexthal announced. His voice carried across the massive chamber. A murmur went through the crowd. Everyone had heard stories about the humans. Some said they were monsters. Others said they were miracle workers. Nobody seemed to agree on anything about them except for one fact: they were strange. Ambassador Sarah Chen stepped forward to represent humanity. She was a small woman with black hair and dark eyes. Next to the massive aliens around her, she looked almost like a child, but her face was calm. Her voice was steady. "The Federation recognizes the human delegation," Vexthal said. "We will now proceed with the standard classification protocols. First, we will examine your species position in your home ecosystem." A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed Earth, a small blue and green planet. Data streams began flowing across the display. "Let us start with a simple question," Vexthal said. "In your natural environment without technology, what is your primary method of obtaining food?" Sarah smiled. "We are omnivores. We eat plants and animals. We hunt, we gather, we farm." "Hunting," Vexthal said. He made a note. "So you are predators. What prey do you typically hunt?" "Everything," Sarah said. The murmur in the crowd grew louder. Vexthal raised 2 of his hands for silence. "Please clarify. What do you mean by everything?" "I mean everything, High Arbiter. On Earth, humans have hunted every type of animal that exists. We hunt creatures smaller than my hand. We hunt creatures larger than this building. We hunt animals in the water, on the land, and in the air. We hunt animals that can outrun us, outswim us, and outfly us. We hunt animals with claws, with fangs, with poison, with armor. We have hunted them all." A Telvari representative stood up. The Telvari were known as one of the galaxy's top predator species. They had been classified as apex predators for 3,000 cycles. "This is clearly exaggeration," the Telvari said. His golden eyes were narrow with suspicion. "No species can hunt everything. Every predator has limits. What about the creatures with thick armor? What about the creatures with deadly poison?" Sarah turned to face him. "On Earth, we have a creature called the elephant. It weighs as much as a small starship. We hunt it. We have a creature called the blue whale. It is the largest animal that has ever lived. We hunt it. We have spiders and snakes with venom that can kill a human in minutes. We hunt them too." "But how?" another delegate called out. "You have no claws, no fangs, your body is soft, you are slow. How can you hunt such creatures?" "We are persistence hunters," Sarah explained. "We evolved on the open plains of Africa. We cannot run as fast as our prey, but we can run longer. We would chase an animal for hours, sometimes for days. We would not stop. We would not rest. The prey would eventually collapse from exhaustion. Then we would kill it." The crowd had gone very quiet. The idea of being chased without rest until you simply could not run anymore was deeply disturbing to most species. "And the dangerous prey?" Vexthal asked. "The ones with natural weapons?" "We made our own weapons. First we used rocks and sticks. Then we learned to make spears. Then bows and arrows. Then guns. Then explosives. Now we have weapons that can destroy entire planets." Vexthal looked at his data tablets. His translator was working overtime to confirm what he was hearing. You develop weapons specifically to hunt creatures that are more dangerous than you. Yes, that is exactly what we do. If something can hurt us, we figure out how to hurt it back, usually in a much bigger way. A small insectoid delegate from the Hive Collective spoke up. What about pack hunters? Surely you cannot compete with species that hunt in groups. Humans are social animals, Sarah said. We hunt in groups too. We coordinate, we communicate, we make plans, we set traps, we ambush, we surround. We have hunted animals in groups since before we were even human. The Telvari representative sat down slowly. His face had changed from suspicion to something that looked almost like fear. High Arbiter Vexthal cleared his throat. Let us move to the next section of the classification. Defense mechanisms. What natural defenses does your species possess? Sarah thought for a moment. We have excellent immune systems. We can survive diseases that would kill most species. We heal quickly from injuries. We can regrow some tissues. We can adapt to extreme temperatures, both hot and cold. We can survive in deserts and in frozen wastelands. Any physical defenses, armor, spikes, poison glands? No, our skin is soft. We have no natural armor or weapons on our bodies. A ripple of surprise went through the crowd. This was more like what they expected from humans. Surely this was a weakness. But, Sarah continued, we make our own armor. We make our own weapons. We build shelters that can survive any natural disaster. We created climate control so we can live anywhere. We cannot fly, so we built machines that fly. We cannot breathe underwater, so we built machines that let us go to the bottom of the ocean. We cannot survive in space, so we built ships that take us to other worlds. Vexthal was writing very quickly now. He had never seen a classification go like this. What about reproduction? He asked. How does your species ensure its survival across generations? We give birth to live young. We care for them for many years until they can survive on their own. We teach them everything we know. We pass down knowledge through generations. What one human learns, all future humans can learn from. And how many offspring do you typically produce? 1 or 2 at a time, usually. But we can reproduce throughout most of our adult lives, and our offspring have a very high survival rate because of how much we care for them. A botanist species from the verdant worlds raised a tendril. What about your relationship with plants? Are you grazers? Do you cultivate? We do both. We eat plants directly and we also farm them. We modify plants to grow bigger, to produce more food, to resist disease. We have changed the very genetics of plants to suit our needs. You modify other species. The botanist sounded shocked. All the time. We have been breeding animals and plants for thousands of years. We change them. We make them what we need them to be. Our dogs used to be wolves. Our corn used to be a small grass. We reshape life to serve us. The hall was completely silent now. Vexthal looked around at the thousands of faces. He had been doing this job for 200 cycles. He had never seen the entire assembly struck speechless before. He looked back at the small human standing calmly at the center of the room. She was surrounded by beings that could crush her, eat her, dissolve her with acid, or kill her in 100 other ways. And she did not look afraid at all. Ambassador Chen, Vexthal said slowly, I must ask you something that is not part of the standard classification protocol. Of course, High Arbiter. Are humans afraid of anything? Sarah Chen smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of something that had fought its way to the top of a very dangerous world. Yes, she said. We are afraid of many things. We fear death. We fear pain. We fear the unknown. But High Arbiter, fear has never stopped us. When we are afraid of something, we do not run from it. We study it. We learn about it. We find its weaknesses. And then we conquer it. Our fear makes us more dangerous, not less. High Arbiter Vexthal set down his tablets. He had made his decision. The classification had never been more clear to him in all his years of service. The next morning, High Arbiter Vexthal called an emergency meeting of the Classification Council. The council consisted of the 12 most senior classification experts in the galaxy. They had all been watching the hearing the day before. They had all seen the data. Now they needed to decide what to do with it. Counselor Irixa was the first to speak. She was a Mendari, a species known for their careful thinking and attention to detail. Her silver scales caught the light as she moved. "I have reviewed all the data from yesterday's hearing," she said. "I have also reviewed the additional information the humans provided about their history. I must say, I have never seen anything like this." "Nor have I," agreed Counselor Thren. He was a Varkathi, a large reptilian species that had been classified as apex predators for over 5,000 cycles. The humans have hunted every major predator on their planet to the edge of extinction, not just one or two, all of them. They have killed so many of their top predators that most of those species can only survive because humans have decided to protect them. "Let us talk about that," said Counselor Mexla, a thin being from a species of parasites. "The humans not only hunt everything, but they also protect things. They create reserves for animals. They breed endangered species back from extinction. They care for creatures that serve no purpose to them." "It is a dominance display," Irixa said. "They are showing that they have complete control. They can kill any species or save any species. The choice is entirely theirs." Vexthal nodded. "That is exactly what I believe. The question is, how do we classify this? Our system has categories for predators, prey, parasites, and symbionts. We have never had a species that fits all categories at once." "What do you mean, all categories?" asked the junior counselor. Vexthal pulled up a display. "Look at the data. Humans are clearly predators. They hunt and eat other animals, but they are also prey. Many animals on Earth have hunted and eaten humans throughout history." "That would normally classify them as middle-tier predators," Thren said. "Yes, normally, but they have also domesticated other species. They keep animals for food, for work, for companionship. In some cases, these relationships look almost like parasitism. The humans take resources from their livestock while giving little back." "And yet," Irixa added, "they also engage in symbiosis. Their pet animals receive protection and food. Many plant species now depend entirely on humans for survival. The relationship benefits both sides." "So they are predators, prey, parasites, and symbionts," Mexla said, "all at once. How is this possible?" Vexthal sighed. "Because they are adaptable, more adaptable than any species we have ever encountered. They change their behavior to fit their situation. When they need to hunt, they hunt. When they need to hide, they hide. When they need to work with another species, they form partnerships. They do not have a fixed role. They choose their role based on what will help them survive and thrive." "There is something else," Thren said. His voice was troubled. "I have been reviewing their military history. It is disturbing." "How so?" "Humans do not just fight to survive. They fight for ideas. They fight for territory. They fight for resources. They fight for pride. They have been at war with each other almost continuously for their entire recorded history." "Many species fight among themselves," Irixa pointed out. "Not like this. Humans have developed entire sciences around warfare. They have strategies and tactics that go back thousands of years. They study war like other species study medicine or engineering. And they are very, very good at it." Vexthal nodded grimly. "I have seen the data on their weapons development. They went from throwing rocks to splitting atoms in less than 10,000 years. That is an incredibly short time for such advancement." "And they did not stop there," Thren continued. "Their nuclear weapons can destroy entire cities in seconds. They have chemical weapons that cause horrible suffering. They have biological weapons that can wipe out populations, and these are weapons they have used on each other, on their own species." The council sat in silence. The idea of a species willing to use such terrible weapons on itself was deeply troubling. "This brings us to the question at hand," Vexthel said. "What classification do we give them? I have consulted every text in our archives. There is no precedent for this." Counselor Irixaw raised a hand. "I have a proposal. We cannot classify them as apex predators because that classification implies they only hunt. We cannot classify them as adaptive species because that implies they react to their environment. Humans do not just adapt to their environment, they change it." "Then what do you suggest?" "I suggest we create a new classification, one that has never existed before. We classify them as apex everything." The council erupted in discussion. Some members thought the idea was ridiculous. Others thought it did not go far enough. The debate went on for hours. Finally, Vexthel called for order. "We will put it to a vote. All those in favor of the classification apex everything for the species Homo sapiens." 12 hands rose. The vote was unanimous. "Then it is decided. We will announce the classification tomorrow. But first, I want to discuss what this means for the Federation." Counselor Mexla leaned forward. "You are worried about them." "I am worried for the Federation. A species that can do all of this, that has risen to dominance on their world in such a short time, that has weapons capable of destroying planets. What will they do now that they have access to the galaxy?" Thren growled softly. "They will do what they have always done. They will explore, they will expand, they will meet new species, and if any of those species threaten them, they will find a way to win," Irixaw finished. "No matter what it takes." The room fell silent again. Outside the windows, the lights of Zentari Prime twinkled peacefully. None of those citizens knew that the galaxy had just changed forever. The announcement was made the following day. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the Great Hall of Records as High Arbiter Vexthel read the classification. "By unanimous decision of the Classification Council, the species Homo sapiens, known as humans from the planet Earth, are hereby classified as apex everything. This classification recognizes their status as apex predators, apex adapters, apex innovators, and apex survivors. No restrictions are placed on their activities within Federation space." The hall erupted in noise. Some delegates cheered, others shouted in protest. A few simply sat in stunned silence. Sarah Chen smiled that dangerous smile again. "The Federation has made a wise choice," she said. "We look forward to working with all of you. We hope it will be a peaceful relationship." Nobody missed the subtle warning in her words. In the weeks that followed, the news spread across the galaxy. Every species learned about the new classification. Every species began to research the humans more carefully. What they found scared them. Humans had survived ice ages that killed most other species. They had survived plagues that wiped out half their population. They had survived famines, droughts, floods, and natural disasters of every kind. Every time something threatened to destroy them, they found a way to survive. And not just survive. They came back stronger. They had crossed oceans in wooden boats. They had climbed the highest mountains just to see what was there. They had gone to the bottom of the sea. They had walked on their moon. They had sent machines to other planets. And now they were building ships to go to other stars. One report from a Telvari researcher became famous throughout the galaxy. It said simply, "Humans do not know how to give up. They do not know how to accept limits. If you tell a human something is impossible, they will take it as a personal challenge, and they will prove you wrong." Another report from a verdant world biologist noted something else interesting. Humans have a concept called a pet. They take other species, often dangerous predators, and make them into companions. They share their homes with creatures that could kill them. They call these creatures friends. This suggests a capacity for forming bonds that crosses species boundaries in ways we have never seen before. A Mendari psychologist wrote, Humans experience fear like all sentient species, but their response to fear is unique. When they are afraid, they do not run away. They run toward the thing that scares them. They call this courage. We call it madness. Perhaps there is no difference. The galaxy watched and waited. What would the humans do now that they were part of the Federation? What would they bring? What would they take? Nobody knew, but everyone understood one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. 5 years passed after the classification announcement. In that time, the humans had spread through Federation space like water through sand. They were everywhere, doing everything. Human traders appeared on every major commerce world. They bought and sold anything. They were willing to take risks that other species would not consider. They went to dangerous systems. They made deals with species that no one else would talk to, and they always seemed to come out ahead. Human scientists joined research stations across the galaxy. They asked questions that no one had thought to ask. They combined ideas from different fields in ways that surprised everyone. They made discoveries that changed how other species thought about the universe. Human artists created works that were strange and beautiful. Their music had rhythms and emotions that alien audiences had never experienced. Their stories explored ideas of love, loss, hope, and fear in ways that touched beings very different from themselves. Human soldiers, though small and fragile compared to many species, were recruited by security companies across the galaxy. They were known for their creativity in combat. They never fought the same way twice. They always had a new trick, a new strategy, something unexpected. But perhaps most surprising of all was how humans formed friendships. Commander Vexthal had retired from the Classification Council. He now worked as an administrator on Station 12, a trading post near the border of Federation space. He had expected a quiet job. Instead, he met a human named James Walker. James was a cargo ship captain. He was tall for a human, with brown hair going gray at the sides and deep lines around his blue eyes. He had a scar on his left cheek from some adventure he rarely talked about. "You are the one who classified us," James said when they first met. "Apex everything, I like that." Vexthal was not sure how to respond. "I did not mean it as a compliment. It was an observation based on data." "I know, that's what makes it so good. You looked at everything we are, good and bad, and you found a way to describe it accurately. Not many beings can do that." Over the following months, Vexthal found himself spending more and more time with the human. James would come to the station every few weeks. He would tell stories about the places he had been and the things he had seen. He would listen to Vexthal talk about his long career and the thousands of species he had classified. "You have met so many different life forms," James said one evening. They were sitting in Vexthal's quarters, drinking a beverage that James had brought from Earth. He called it whiskey. Vexthal found it surprisingly pleasant. "I have," Vexthal agreed, "but I never really knew any of them. I classified them. I put them in categories. I never understood them." "Why not?" Vexthal thought about the question. "I suppose I thought understanding was not part of my job. My job was to identify what a species was: predator, prey, parasite, symbiont. Once I assigned a category, my work was done." "But beings are more than categories," James said. "I know that now. Humans taught me that." James laughed. "We taught you how." "By being impossible to categorize. By being everything at once. You forced me to look beyond the simple labels. You forced me to see that every species is more complex than any classification can capture." James raised his glass. "Then here's to complexity." They drank together. Outside the viewport, ships came and went. The station hummed with activity. Somewhere in the distance, new stars were being born. "Can I tell you something?" James asked. "Of course." "When I was young, I thought humans were the center of the universe. I thought we were special, better than everyone else. Then I started traveling. I met species that could live for 1,000 years. I met species that could communicate through colors and smells that humans cannot even perceive. I met species that could calculate faster than any computer we have ever built. And what did you learn? That we are not special, not in the way I thought. Every species is special. Every species has something unique to offer. What makes humans different is not that we are better. It is that we know we are not the best at anything, so we try harder. We work harder. We never stop reaching for more because we know there is always something we cannot do. Vexthel nodded slowly. That is why you are apex everything. Not because you are the best predator or the best adapter or the best anything, because you try to be everything, and you never stop trying. Exactly. The next month, something happened that tested everything the Federation had learned about humans. A fleet of unknown ships appeared at the edge of Federation space. They came from beyond the charted regions, from the dark spaces between galaxies. They called themselves the Kryn, and they came to conquer. The Kryn were not interested in trade or diplomacy. They wanted resources. They wanted slaves. They wanted to expand their empire across the galaxy. They gave the Federation an ultimatum: surrender or be destroyed. The Federation had been at peace for 5,000 years. They had diplomats and traders and scientists. They did not have warriors. They did not have weapons. But they had humans. Within days of the Kryn ultimatum, human military commanders offered their services to the Federation. Human weapons manufacturers began producing equipment. Human strategists analyzed the Kryn fleet and found weaknesses. Human soldiers volunteered by the millions. High Admiral Chen, a descendant of the same family that had produced Ambassador Sarah Chen, was appointed to lead the defense. She stood before the Federation Council and made her case. The Kryn believe they are dealing with soft, peaceful species who will roll over and surrender, she said. They do not know about humans. They do not know what we can do when our backs are against the wall. What can you do? A counselor asked. Anything we have to. We will fight them in space. We will fight them on the ground. We will fight them in the void between stars. We will not stop until they are defeated or we are destroyed. There is no middle ground. There is no surrender. There is no giving up. And if you fail? Admiral Chen smiled. It was the same dangerous smile that her ancestor had worn in the Great Hall of Records all those years ago. We will not fail. Failure is not something humans accept. We may lose battles. We may suffer defeats. We may lose millions of our own people, but we will never stop fighting. We will find a way. We always find a way. The Federation Council voted to give the humans command of all military operations. It was the easiest vote they had ever taken. Nobody disagreed. The war began. Commander Vexthel watched from Station 12 as the human fleets moved into position. James Walker came to say goodbye. You are joining the fight? Vexthel asked. Every human is joining the fight. Cargo captains like me will be running supplies. But yeah, I am going to help where I can. Why? This is not your world. This is not your territory. You could run. You could hide. You could go back to Earth and wait for it to be over. James shook his head. That's not how humans work. We do not run from fights, especially not fights where innocent beings will suffer if we do not stand up. But you might die. I might, probably will, honestly. The Kryn are powerful, James smiled. But here's the thing, old friend. Every human who fights, every human who dies buys time for the others to figure out how to win. We are good at that. We die, but our species survives. We lose, but we learn. And eventually we win. Vexthel felt something he had not felt in all his long years. He felt hope. I will miss our talks, he said. Then make sure we have more of them after this is over. Stay safe, Vexthel. The galaxy is going to need beings like you when the fighting is done. James Walker walked out of the station. He climbed aboard his ship. He joined the fleet heading toward the Kryn invasion. Vexthel watched him go and understood something he had never understood before. Humans were not apex everything because of their hunting or their adaptability or their weapons. They were apex everything because they cared. They cared about beings who were not like them. They would die for strangers. They would fight for ideas. They would sacrifice everything for the chance to make things better. That was what made them unstoppable. That was what made them human. The first battle against the Kryn was a disaster. The human fleet was outnumbered 3-1. The Kryn ships were larger, stronger, and more heavily armed. The humans lost 40% of their forces in the first engagement. But they did not retreat. They did not surrender. Admiral Chen regrouped her remaining ships and launched a counterattack that nobody expected. Instead of fighting the Kryn fleet directly, she sent small strike teams to hit their supply lines. She disrupted their communications. She made the Kryn chase shadows while her main force recovered. "You fight dirty," a Kryn commander accused during a brief communication. "We fight to win," Admiral Chen replied. "There is no such thing as a clean war." The war lasted 3 years. It was the bloodiest conflict the galaxy had seen in 10,000 years. Billions of beings died. Entire worlds were destroyed. The Federation came close to collapse more than once. But the humans kept fighting. They developed new weapons specifically designed to counter Kryn technology. They found weaknesses in Kryn biology and exploited them. They trained soldiers from other species to fight like humans. They built alliances with species that had never worked together before. And everywhere they went, they told the same story. "We will not give up. We will not surrender. We will fight until we win or until there is no one left to fight." The Kryn had never encountered anything like this. Their empire had conquered hundreds of species across dozens of galaxies. Every species eventually gave up. Every species eventually accepted defeat. Every species eventually bowed to the Kryn. But not the humans. Not ever. Commander Vexthel spent the war years on Station 12, which had been converted into a refugee center. Millions of beings fled the conflict zones and came to the station. Vexthel organized their care. He made sure they had food and shelter and medical attention. He also organized something else. "What is this?" a Federation official asked, looking at the training program Vexthel had set up. "Resistance training. I am teaching the refugees how to fight." "You, a former classifier, what do you know about fighting?" Vexthel smiled. "I learned from humans. They say anyone can be a warrior. It just takes training and will. I am training these beings. I am helping them find their will." "But why?" "Because if the humans fall, someone needs to continue the fight. The humans taught me that. You never give up. You never surrender. You pass on what you know to others so they can continue after you are gone." The official stared at Vexthel for a long moment. "You have changed." "Yes, I have." James Walker survived the first year of the war. He ran supplies between battle zones, dodging Kryn patrols and bringing food and medicine to troops on the front lines. He was nearly killed 7 times. He lost his ship twice. He kept going. On the anniversary of the war's beginning, he sent a message to Vexthel. "Still alive, old friend. Things are bad, but we are holding on. The Kryn are starting to get frustrated. They cannot understand why we will not quit. I told one of their officers that humans are too stupid to know when we are beaten. He did not think it was funny. I did." Vexthel read the message and laughed for the first time in months. The turning point came in the second year. Human scientists discovered something about Kryn biology that changed everything. The Kryn were not a natural species. They were engineered, created by some ancient civilization long forgotten, and their creators had built in a weakness. The Kryn could not adapt. They were designed for conquest. They were perfect warriors, but they could not change. They could not learn. They could not grow beyond their original programming. Every tactic they used had been programmed into them millions of years ago. The humans exploited this weakness mercilessly. Admiral Chen developed a strategy she called the Chaos Doctrine. Human forces would never do the same thing twice. They would change tactics constantly. They would be unpredictable. The Kryn could not process this. Their programming told them how enemies were supposed to behave. Humans did not behave that way. "You are breaking the rules of war," a Kryn commander complained. "War has no rules," Admiral Chen replied. "Only winners and losers." The third year of the war was the year of the counterattack. Human forces pushed the Kryn back. System by system, world by world, they reclaimed what had been lost. They freed slaves. They destroyed Kryn bases. They hunted Kryn fleets through the darkness between stars. And then came the final battle. The Kryn homeworld was a massive artificial structure built around a captured star. It was the heart of their empire, the center of their power. If it fell, the Kryn would be finished. Admiral Chen led the attack herself. The combined fleet of humans and Federation allies numbered in the millions. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. The battle lasted 9 days. In the end, the human flag flew over the Kryn command center. The artificial world was silent. The Kryn Empire was no more. Admiral Chen broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. "The war is over. The Kryn are defeated. To all the beings who fought alongside us, thank you. To all the beings who suffered under Kryn occupation, you are free. To any other power out there thinking about conquest, learn from the Kryn. We do not surrender. We do not give up. We will fight you until the end of time if we have to. The galaxy is under our protection now. Act accordingly." On Station 12, Vexthal watched the announcement with the refugees he had been caring for. They cheered. They cried. They embraced each other, species that had never touched before united in celebration. Vexthal felt tears on his own face. He had not known his species could cry. A month later, James Walker's ship docked at Station 12. Vexthal was waiting on the landing platform. James looked older. His hair was completely gray now. He walked with a limp from some injury he would probably never fully explain. But his eyes were bright, and his smile was wide. "We did it," he said. "We actually did it." "You did it," Vexthal corrected. "Humans did it." "No, all of us, every species that fought, every species that refused to give up. We did it together," James laughed. "That is the other thing about humans, Vexthal. We cannot do anything alone. We need others. We need friends. We need allies. That is what makes us strong. I thought humans were independent, self-reliant. We like to think we are, but our whole history is about working with others. We domesticated animals because we needed help. We built communities because we could not survive alone. We formed nations, alliances, federations. Humans are social animals. We are stronger together than we could ever be apart." Vexthal nodded slowly. "So apex everything also means apex cooperation." "Exactly. We are the best at bringing others together, at forming bonds, at building something bigger than ourselves." James put his hand on Vexthal's arm. "Like our friendship, that is what humans do. We make friends everywhere we go, and we fight for our friends, always." Vexthal understood then why the Kryn had failed. They had tried to conquer the galaxy alone. They had not understood that strength came from connection. Humans understood. They had always understood. That was their true power. 10 years after the end of the Kryn War, the galaxy was a different place. The Federation had grown stronger than ever. New species joined every year. Trade flourished. Science advanced at a pace no one had thought possible. And everywhere, humans and aliens worked side by side. Commander Vexthal, now quite old by the standards of his species, had one final task to complete. The Classification Council had asked him to return for a special session. They wanted to review the human classification in light of everything that had happened. Vexthel stood in the Great Hall of Records for the last time. The same hall where, so many years ago, he had first classified humans as apex everything. The same hall where Ambassador Sarah Chen had smiled that dangerous smile. Today, her great-granddaughter stood in her place. Maya Chen was the new human ambassador. She had her ancestors' dark hair and dark eyes. She had that same calm confidence. "High Arbiter Vexthel," Maya said, "I understand you wish to amend our species classification." Vexthel nodded. His 4 arms held no data tablets this time. He had memorized everything he needed to say. "When I first classified your species, I called you Apex Everything. I meant that you were at the top of every category. Hunters, survivors, adapters, innovators. I was correct, but I was also incomplete." He paused, looking around the hall. It was even more crowded than it had been for the original classification. Beings from thousands of worlds had come to hear what he would say. "In the years since that classification, I have watched humans closely. I have worked with them. I have fought alongside them in my own small way. I have called them friends, and I have learned something that I should have understood from the beginning." "What is that?" Maya asked. "Humans are not apex everything because of what they can do. They are apex everything because of who they choose to be. Every human I have met has made a choice. They have chosen to be more than their biology, more than their instincts, more than their fear. They have chosen to reach higher, to dream bigger, to become better." Vexthel turned to address the entire assembly. The Kryn were perfect predators. They were designed to be the ultimate conquerors, but they could not adapt. They could not change. They could not choose. Humans can do all of these things, and they choose to use their abilities to help others, to protect the weak, to stand against injustice. This is what makes them truly remarkable. He looked back at Maya Chen. "I propose an amendment to the human classification. They are still apex everything, but we should add a note that explains what this truly means. Humans are not apex because they are the strongest or the fastest or the smartest. They are apex because they have the greatest capacity for growth. They can become anything they set their minds to be. And they use this ability not for conquest but for connection, not for destruction but for creation, not for domination but for cooperation." The hall was silent. Vexthel took a deep breath. "In my long career, I have classified over 10,000 species. I have seen predators and prey. I have seen parasites and symbionts. I have seen creatures of beauty and creatures of horror. But I have never seen a species with as much potential as humans. And I have never seen a species that works so hard to live up to that potential." He bowed his head. "I am old now. I will not live to see what humans become in the centuries ahead, but I have faith in them. They will face challenges. They will make mistakes. They will fail sometimes, but they will never give up. They will never stop trying. They will find a way. They always find a way." Maya Chen stepped forward. "High Arbiter Vexthel, on behalf of humanity, I accept this amended classification with gratitude. We will do our best to deserve it." "You already deserve it. You have proven yourselves, not just in war but in peace, not just in victory but in how you have handled victory. You could have become conquerors after the Kryn fell. Instead, you became protectors. You could have demanded tribute from the species you saved. Instead, you asked for friendship." James Walker was in the audience. He was very old now, using a hovering chair to move around. But his eyes were still bright, and he was smiling. Vexthel met his gaze across the crowded hall. "One human in particular taught me what your species truly is. He showed me that humans are capable of great kindness, of deep loyalty, of true friendship. He made me a better being simply by being my friend." James nodded slightly. No words were needed between them. The vote to amend the classification was unanimous. The new entry in the Federation records read, "Classification, Apex Everything. Note: this classification reflects not only the physical and mental capabilities of humans, but their unique capacity for growth, change, and cooperation. Humans have demonstrated the ability to adapt to any challenge, form bonds with any species, and improve themselves without limit. They are apex not because they dominate, but because they elevate. Where humans go, progress follows. Where humans make friends, civilizations flourish. They are the galaxy's greatest allies and its most determined defenders. The Federation is stronger for their presence. After the ceremony, Vexthal and James sat together one last time. They were in Vexthal's quarters on Station 12, sharing a bottle of Earth whiskey. "You gave a good speech," James said. "I meant every word." "I know you did. That is what made it good." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside the viewport, the stars shone steadily. Ships came and went. Life continued. "What do you think comes next?" James asked. "For humans, I think you will keep doing what you have always done. You will explore, you will discover, you will make mistakes and learn from them. You will help where you can and fight when you must. You will be human." "And for the galaxy?" Vexthal smiled. "The galaxy will keep changing. New challenges will arise. New threats will emerge. But as long as humans are part of the Federation, I believe we will face those challenges together, and together we will overcome them." James raised his glass. "To the future, then, whatever it brings." "To the future." They drank. The whiskey was warm and smooth. Outside, a human ship lifted off, heading toward unknown stars. Its crew was eager to see what lay beyond the edge of the map. Because that was what humans did. They went to the unknown. They faced the darkness. They found light in the most unexpected places. And they never, ever gave up. Years later, when both Vexthal and James Walker had passed on, their friendship became legendary throughout the Federation. Schools taught about the alien classifier and the human cargo captain who had shown that beings from different worlds could understand each other, could care for each other, could change each other for the better. It was, many said, the perfect example of what humans had brought to the galaxy. Not weapons, not wars, not conquest. Connection. And in the end, that was why the Federation had classified humans as apex everything. Not because they could destroy any enemy, not because they could survive any challenge, not because they could adapt to any environment, but because they could befriend anyone. And once they were your friend, they would move stars for you. That was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. That was their true power. That was what made them apex. Everything else was just details.